Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to this comprehensive intelligence briefing. You are joining us for a detailed, objective examination of current events that are actively shaping our global landscape.
It is certainly a critical time to be looking closely at these developments.
It truly is. Now, before we proceed, I must state for the record that this deep dive is sponsored by ProWave AI and is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
Right.
For the official record, the title of tonight's briefing is Middle East at War: Strategic Implications for Regional Security.
A fitting title given the scope of the intelligence we are reviewing today.
Exactly. The focal region of our analysis is the Middle East, and today's date is the 6th of March, 2026.
Now, before we begin the actual briefing, it is highly important to understand the technology that is powering this analysis.
Yes, the Stylo News application.
Correct. Stylo News is actually the consumer version of the Stylo Intel ops software.
Which is an enterprise tool, correct?
It is. It is a highly sophisticated platform originally designed strictly for enterprise operations. We are talking about utilization across government, military, and large corporate sectors.
So by utilizing Stylo News, you, the listener, now have unique direct access to the exact same caliber of open-source intelligence technology designed to support global decision makers.
You are essentially looking at the world through the same lens as the people shaping it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for today's deep dive is clear. We are here to calmly and impartially analyze the primary patterns of the past 2 weeks' global events.
And we are relying on a massive stack of international sources to do so.
A truly vast array of data. Our goal today is strictly to lay out the facts, examine the different perspectives, and outline the potential courses of action.
And we want to do this without generating fear.
Precisely. We maintain strict neutrality. So, stepping away from the news desk formalities for a moment, let us look at the reality on the ground, because the global landscape just shifted quite violently beneath our feet.
It's a seismic shift.
Late last month, we witnessed an escalation that, frankly, rewrote the established rules of engagement in the Middle East. Walk us through exactly what happened on February 28th.
Well, it was a massive, unprecedented joint military campaign by the United States and Israeli forces.
Operation Epic Fury.
Exactly. They designated it Operation Epic Fury. And the sheer scale of this operation is hard to overstate. Within a single 12-hour window, Allied forces executed nearly 900 precision strikes.
900 strikes.
In 12 hours.
Yes. If you do the math on that, it is more than one targeted strike every single minute for half a day.
That is a staggering logistical feat.
It requires immense coordination. The primary targets were Iranian military infrastructure. But the factual outcome, the event that completely altered the geopolitical chessboard, was the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei.
A strike of that magnitude, one that targets a head of state, doesn't just happen in a vacuum.
No, it certainly does not.
How did we arrive at this specific flashpoint? To really grasp the gravity here, you have to look at Israel's broader strategic posture since October 7th, 2023.
Right.
This was not an isolated, sudden lightning bolt. It was the culmination of a very deliberate 28-month policy of targeted eliminations.
Systematically dismantling leadership.
Exactly. Over that period, we have seen the systematic dismantling of the leadership structures of Hamas, Hezbollah, and various Iranian proxy networks.
You would be referring to the strikes that took out high-ranking figures like Saleh Aruri.
Aruri, yes. And Mohammad Diaf.
Hassan Nasrallah as well.
Exactly. Operation Epic Fury was essentially the ultimate extreme continuation of that exact policy. It moved past the regional proxies and struck at the very apex of the Iranian leadership structure itself.
So naturally, Tehran did not simply absorb a blow of that magnitude without a reaction.
No, their response was immediate and forceful.
According to our sources, they launched the 12th wave of a campaign they call Operation Truthful Promise 4.
And this was far from a symbolic volley. We are talking about massive coordinated drone and ballistic missile strikes.
Aimed directly at U.S. military installations across the Gulf.
Yes. Bases in Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain, as well as directly hitting Israeli targets, including Ben Gurion Airport.
The regional air defense networks must have been tested to their absolute breaking points.
They were pushed to their absolute limits. Take the United Arab Emirates, for example. Their airspace was heavily breached during this exchange.
What were the figures on their intercepts?
The UAE successfully intercepted 11 ballistic missiles and an incredible 123 incoming drones.
123 drones.
Yes. They've confirmed minimal damage on the ground, thankfully, and they firmly asserted their sovereign right to respond to those incursions.
But, as with any exchange of this sheer volume, intercept shields are never perfect.
No defense system is impenetrable when saturated like that.
The human cost here has been tragic. We have confirmation that 4 U.S. service members were killed when a drone managed to slip through the defenses and strike a makeshift facility in Kuwait.
A profound loss.
When you look at an event this explosive, it helps to step back and examine how the key decision makers are viewing the board.
It is essential for a neutral analysis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We must state clearly to you, the listener, that we do not endorse any of these viewpoints. We're merely conveying the stated positions of the actors involved.
Impartiality is the goal.
Right. So if you look at this from the perspective of Washington or Tel Aviv, figures like former U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are framing this as a strict, necessary defense of their nations.
They view Operation Epic Fury as a critical opportunity.
An opportunity to neutralize an existential threat.
Yes. And potentially force either a regime change or massive structural reform within Iran.
But if you shift your perspective to Tehran, the Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, operates from a starkly different paradigm.
Completely different. They view their drone and missile waves as a righteous defense of their national sovereignty.
From their vantage point, a foreign power assassinated their supreme leader on their own soil,
making their military retaliation a necessary and legally justified vengeance in their eyes.
And it is fascinating and highly alarming how quickly this land and air conflict spilled over into the water.
The maritime escalation has been incredibly rapid.
Here is where it gets highly consequential for the global structure. We're no longer just talking about missiles flying over borders. We are talking about the global economy's most critical choke points.
Specifically, the Strait of Hormuz.
For anyone who might need a quick geography refresher on why this specific stretch of water is so vital.
The Strait of Hormuz is essentially the jugular vein of the global energy market.
It is incredibly narrow, isn't it?
At its narrowest point, it is only about 21 miles wide. Yet over 20% of the world's daily oil exports have to pass through that tiny bottleneck.
20%.
Yes. So when the IRGC responded to the strikes by initially blocking, then unblocking, and ultimately declaring full operational control over the strait, they were putting a hand directly around the throat of the global economy.
And it wasn't just a declaration. We have seen direct attacks on commercial vessels there.
We have. The U.S. allied tanker, the Etanova, for instance. It took a direct hit from an Iranian drone.
But the naval escalation that completely alters the historical precedent happened further south, down in the Indian Ocean, near Sri Lanka.
Yes, this was a highly significant event. What's fascinating here is the sheer historical weight of this specific engagement.
Walk us through it.
A United States Navy submarine fired upon and sank an Iranian warship, the Iris Dana.
And they did not use a missile.
No, they used a torpedo. Approximately 140 Iranian crew members are reported missing or dead.
A massive loss of life at sea.
It is. And just to put this in context for you, the listener, this is the first time a U.S. submarine has successfully sunk a hostile ship with a torpedo since the end of World War II.
Since World War II.
Yes. It is a monumental, historic elevation in modern naval warfare. Submarine torpedo strikes are incredibly stealthy, they're highly lethal, and they send a definitive, undeniable message about controlling the seas.
So if you are listening to this briefing, you might be asking yourself, why does a naval engagement near Sri Lanka or a blockade in the Persian Gulf affect me directly?
The answer hits the wallet almost immediately.
That 20% of the world's oil we mentioned. The sheer shock of these combined events sent massive ripples through global energy markets.
Asian financial indices took a heavy hit right away.
And the OPEC Plus alliance, the group of major oil-producing nations, had to hold emergency meetings.
They had to urgently adjust their production levels just to mitigate the sudden supply shortage fears.
And to try and stabilize this massive economic volatility, the U.S. government is currently weighing several drastic courses of action.
Some of which involve heavy government intervention.
Yes. President Trump has actually authorized the underwriting of risk insurance for commercial vessels attempting to transit the region.
Essentially using the federal government to backstop the entire shipping industry.
Furthermore, our sources indicate there are intense, active discussions right now about deploying United States Navy warships to act as armed escorts for commercial oil tankers navigating through the strait.
Which would be a massive logistical commitment.
It would. And speaking of strain, The economic hit is really only one facet of this crisis. The sources we are analyzing highlight a profound international fracture.
The social reaction globally has been incredibly intense.
In the U.S., we have seen highly coordinated anti-war protests shutting down major cities. We are tracking huge demonstrations in New York and Charleston.
And the intelligence feeds note allegations regarding the funding of these groups.
Yes, allegations that some of these domestic protests were actually mobilized by groups funded by Neville Roy Singham. He is a tycoon with alleged ties to Chinese state interests.
And this anger is not contained to the West. We are seeing it spill over globally.
In Pakistan, the protests against the military strikes escalated to the point of severe violence.
Tragic violence. 22 people have died in Pakistan.
And the government had to drop strict curfews on major cities like Gilgit and Skardu just to try and keep a lid on the unrest.
We are also tracking massive demonstrations in Nigeria and Iraq. The emotional and political fallout is resonating across multiple continents simultaneously.
And it is exposing some very real, very deep cracks in Western alliances. The diplomatic situation with Spain really stands out in the reporting.
Yes, the basing rights issue.
So the U.S. essentially requests to use Spanish air bases to launch strikes against Iran, and Spain refuses.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a massive fracture in NATO unity playing out right in the open.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez formally refused the U.S. request.
He cited international law and Spain's firm anti-war stance.
And the U.S. response was quite aggressive.
The administration didn't just express diplomatic disappointment, they threatened Spain with trade embargoes.
Threatening a NATO ally with a trade embargo.
Yes, and crucially, the European Union stepped in and expressed absolute solidarity with Spain.
So you have the U.S. threatening a key ally with economic sanctions over military access during a global crisis, while the rest of Europe backs the ally.
It is a profound diplomatic strain.
And while all this infighting is happening, you have other nations watching the logistical drain in sheer panic.
Ukraine being the primary example.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been very public about his deep concern. He is worried that this massive conflict in the Middle East is going to divert crucial military resources right out of Ukraine's hands.
And his concerns are entirely rooted in logistical realities. The sources confirm a severe critical strain on the United States military right now.
Regarding air defense specifically.
We are talking about advanced air defense systems, the PA and Patriot batteries, as well as standard missile interceptors.
These are not cheap systems?
No. For context, these are incredibly complex, multi-million-dollar shields designed to knock advanced ballistic missiles out of the sky.
And they are being used against much cheaper targets.
Exactly. The sheer volume of cheap drones and missiles flying across the Middle East means the U.S. is burning through these high-end interceptors faster than the defense industrial base can physically manufacture them.
It is a terrifying math problem. You cannot shoot down a $10,000 drone with a $4 million missile forever.
The math simply does not work. And simultaneously, the U.S. military is opening new fronts elsewhere. They recently expanded special operations against drug cartels down in Ecuador.
Meaning they are stretched incredibly thin globally.
Very thin.
Which brings us to a really uncomfortable reality. What happens within a country's borders when its government and military apparatus are entirely focused outward?
Internal vulnerabilities begin to show.
We're seeing intense internal pressures and domestic security incidents. In the United States, there's a major terrorism investigation underway in Austin, Texas.
A horrific incident.
A gunman named Ndiaga Diagne, who was reportedly wearing an Iranian flag and clothing reading "Property of Allah," opened fire at a local beer garden.
He killed 2 people and injured 14.
And this is happening right alongside an ongoing federal trial, also in Texas. 9 alleged Antifa members are currently accused of orchestrating an attack on an ICE detention center.
The domestic stability of the U.S. is clearly under significant strain.
And we are seeing similar, albeit structurally different, internal security breaches in Israel.
Yes, the intelligence details a highly specific, very troubling indictment.
Regarding an Israeli deputy battalion commander.
A senior military officer. He was indicted for exploiting his operational position to smuggle trucks loaded with millions of shekels worth of goods into the Gaza Strip.
This is via the Kerem Shalom crossing.
Yes. And this level of corruption occurred mid-conflict. He potentially aided Hamas logistically while his own country was actively at war with them.
It is a stark reminder of the chaos of war. It is not just lines moving on a map. It is the breakdown of internal systems.
This raises an important question regarding national resilience. Massive international conflicts don't just test armies on foreign soil.
No, they create profound vulnerabilities at home.
They create societal fractures and security breaches at the local level. When a nation's entire apparatus is focused on an external existential threat, it inevitably provides cover for internal actors.
Whether they are extremists in Texas or corrupt officials at a border crossing.
They find the blind spots and exploit the system.
As we monitor how these deeply complex situations are developing, looking at public sentiment gives us a pretty clear window into the global mindset.
It is a very divided picture.
If you spend any time on social media platforms, particularly X, the sentiment regarding the actions of the U.S., Israel, and Iran is exactly what you would expect. Deeply, fiercely polarized.
The discourse is completely fractured along political and ideological lines.
However, when our intelligence sweep looks beyond individual users and focuses on international institutions, we actually identify a very clear, broad, common viewpoint.
And it is a surprisingly unified stance.
Bodies such as the United Nations, the European Union, the governments of Russia and China, alongside major global humanitarian NGOs, they all share a completely unified sentiment.
Despite their vast political differences, yes.
They are all strictly calling for immediate de-escalation, a strict adherence to international law, and a rapid return to diplomatic resolutions.
They are all warning of catastrophic humanitarian consequences if this war expands any further.
So with all these moving parts, what should you, the listener, be watching out for in the coming days and weeks? How does this situation evolve?
There are 3 key indicators to watch very closely.
What is the first?
First, the political transition in Tehran. Keep a close watch on the Iranian Assembly of Experts.
They are the body slated to convene and select a new supreme leader to replace Khamenei.
Exactly. The faction that manages to secure this leadership role, whether they are hardliners pushing for further escalation or pragmatists seeking regional stabilization that will dictate Iran's strategic posture for years to come.
And the second indicator?
Monitor the Strait of Hormuz. If the U.S. formally deploys Navy warships as armed escorts for commercial tankers, that creates a critical, ongoing flashpoint.
It drastically increases the surface area for direct ship-to-ship engagements with IRGC naval forces.
It puts them right in each other's crosshairs daily. Finally, observe the U.S. Army's strategic moves.
Undersecretary Mark Esper.
Yes. Under Secretary Esper, the military is rapidly pivoting to prepare for sustained, high-intensity conflicts. Watch for accelerated acquisitions of advanced technologies.
Technologies designed specifically to overcome the exact logistical and interceptor shortages we discussed earlier.
Precisely. They have to fix that math problem, and quickly.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something that really captures the magnitude of what we are watching unfold globally.
Consider the sheer fragility of our interconnected world.
It is more fragile than we think.
If a single targeted strike in the Middle East can instantly reroute global energy supply chains, rapidly deplete the advanced missile defense stockpiles of a superpower, and fracture long-standing NATO alliances over something as simple as airbase access,
The ripple effects are immediate.
are we witnessing the end of localized conflicts? Have we entered a new era where every regional dispute immediately becomes a global logistical and economic crisis?
It is a profound question to consider. That concludes our intelligence briefing for today. To maintain your situational awareness on these rapidly evolving stories, we highly recommend utilizing Stylo News.
It is an invaluable tool for this level of analysis.
Stylo News is a sophisticated mobile and computer application that you can download and fully customize for yourself. It provides personal, intelligence-style briefs pulled from hundreds of traditional news sources, international feeds, and real-time social media like X.
It translates and synthesizes all that global data into clear, actionable reports.
In under 60 seconds, we strongly encourage you to subscribe to Stylo News to get AI-powered news on demand. You can find them at www.stylonews.com.
Highly recommended.
And, dropping the formal anchor voice completely here for a second, I just want to say a huge, genuine thank you to all of you for tuning in today.
Yes, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it.
We cover some incredibly heavy, complex stuff on this show. And your curiosity, your desire to actually understand the why behind the headlines is what makes doing this so worthwhile.
It is a lot to process, but it's important.
It really is. So if there is a specific topic, a region, or a complex issue you want us to untangle next, please let us know. Send in your requests for future deep dives, and don't forget to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms to keep the conversation going.
We look forward to your suggestions.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay informed, and we will catch you on the next one.